Investors in general, like they love beauty so much and they get higher multiples because you can just get a ton of gross margin.
Beauty and personal care is attractive compared to, say, food and beverage for a lot of different reasons.
I'm looking at the dude wipes stuff on Amazon and it's like I can buy a dude wipe pack today for like $4.
We kind of got a bootstrap. Next year we're making $1 million.
We were targeting 33 and right out the gate we had like 60. So it was almost double what we hoped.
When there's a hero product is just so beloved by a general consumer, that's kind of the magic there.
It made sense to play the game longer, essentially. We're having fun. We want to keep doing this.
But our CAC was like way, way, way higher than mid model 2.
There was just collapse of DTC business. It was just like a graveyard.
If we had raised more money, we would have definitely had more problems.
Start with the more local banks. They'll give you a little bit better treatment, better rates.
I'm doing this on our terms, and if that means I have to cobble together checks here and there to get what I want, so be it.
A lot of founders sometimes even think, and maybe this is a good sort of first topic to hit on, but like sometimes they think like, oh, I either have to sell my business, 100% of my business, which is like not even realistic to be honest, but like, or my alternative is that I raise a series A and I sell, 20%. So talk a little bit about like when it makes sense to go like in between those two ends of the spectrum.
I think it's really founder dependent and how long they want to be involved and what their ultimate goals for the brand are. I think in beauty and personal care, in every business, but in beauty and personal care specifically, there's a real emotional tie for the founders towards the business. And I think there's a sense of, I do not want to lose control. And that's something we completely honor. And we've had amazing, successful partnerships with businesses where we've been a large minority, a big piece of the cap table, but we understand that the founders are unfamiliar or uncomfortable with giving control up to the board. They still want to be the decision makers at the end of the day, and we honor that in a lot of cases. I think a lot of other firms do too, and they do a really great job. And so I think there's not a right or a wrong answer. I think it depends on how much capital the business really needs and pairs back to the valuation of the company, because the valuation is going to be the ultimate dictator paired with how much capital the company needs or how much money the founders want to take off the table.
How much money were you going to distribute yourself and like what kind of risk are you taking off the table by just getting that money up front from like a private equity partner, and how much are you willing to discount the cash for that risk essentially in terms of kind of crafting the overall structure. So I mean, like we could get into like all this stuff and spend hours talking about it, but I think what I just kind of wanted to establish before we dive into more of the beauty focused stuff is just the general range of flexibility that certain capital partners have. I think it's like an important thing for founders to at least like become educated a little bit on, because I've had more of these conversations where it's like, oh, I don't want to raise Series A, or like, oh, I don't want to sell my business yet. And it's like, you don't really have to do either of those things. Like there is like this middle ground. Nobody ever said bankers weren't creative. They're the most creative people like on the planet, honestly, as long as there's
Totally, I agree. I think I learn a different type of structure every time I do a deal. And there's so many ways to, if the firm feels as though they can be flexible and that's part of their mandate, then there's a lot of different ways to make sure that founders are meeting their goals and still getting a partnership out of it. Because in addition to getting capital and sometimes taking chips off
and
the table,
capitalizing
you're
their
getting a
business
partner.
properly. Yeah.
So it can be a pretty lonely ride as a founder, and having somebody who's there as a thought partner who's seen, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, but who has seen what to do, or more importantly, what not to do, that's sometimes invaluable. I mean, when you get to hit a certain scale of your business, making sure that you have somebody who's going to lock arms with you through some of the ups and the downs that are going to happen inevitably is
it has skin in the
a
game.
peace of mind that you can't even put dollars on.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes like I always say, like, I don't know how solo founders do it, because like honestly, like having a co-founder is just like nice to have somebody to like wallow in the gutter with, like when those days come,
Are you kidding? Being alone with your own thoughts running a business is just,
It's like
I
the
give
worst.
people credit if they can do it. We were a large minority growth focused partner for them, and we built an incredible relationship with the founders. We had so much conviction in what they had already built and how much heritage existed in that brand. And I think there are a bunch of incredible brands in beauty and personal care right now. There's been an uptick in M&A activity, which I'm sure we'll also talk about. But Dr. Dennis Gross in and of itself was an interesting one, because it was actually one of the last transactions announced and closed in February of 2024. And after which there was a lull in the market for kind of this whole
It
wait
really
and
was.
see
Yeah.
environment until things picked up again at the end of 2024, beginning of 2025. And so the timing of that was amazing, but really it's all goes back to what Dennis and Carrie built, which is a very science and innovative focused brand
Uh-huh.
that is built on a very key hero product franchise where there is significant and measurable replenishability, which is
Yeah.
the peel pad. It was a product that Dr. Dennis Gross is actually a practicing dermatologist to this day.
Okay.
He still has an office. He still sees patients. And Carrie
Oh, to
ran
this
the
day.
business.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
wonder
no,
if that's
he is
probably an
still
expensive
injecting
dentist.
Botox,
Yeah.
seeing patients. He's an incredible, world-renowned
Oh,
dermatologist.
no way.
And
Okay. I
Carrie,
didn't
his
realize that.
wife, is the mind behind the whole business. And it all
Yeah.
came about because Carrie couldn't even get into his blossoming dermatology practice. And she was getting fed up. And she said, okay, well, bring me home a peel. And they created this at-home peel where historically peels had been a little bit of a faux pas or a little bit of a scary thing
Is
because
this
there
like the
had
thing that goes
been...
under your eye?
No, those are masks, and those are great
Oh, okay.
too. But this is a two-step peel pad where you basically exfoliate your skin. On one side, you wait 2 minutes, and then there's a pH balancer on the second step, and again, you exfoliate. And what's amazing about the product is that the before and after is there's like an instant gratification that you get out of that. And there's not a lot of that in beauty and personal care, but you can see results instantly upon
Uh-huh.
using this product. And I think that really led into how replenishable it is. And in general, beauty and personal care, when you look at a business, you put a lot of stake in how loyal the consumers are to specific products.
Yeah.
And you want to see that repeat rate really strong. You want to see that loyalty because in today's day and age, when there's social media and constant innovation and the barriers to entry are really low, it's easy for consumers to get confused and look elsewhere. But when there's a hero product that is just so beloved by a general consumer base and cohort and continues to grow with that, that's kind of the magic there, especially when it has real science, clinical
Yeah.
testing, and a consumer base that's just getting smarter every day. They're spending so much time doing research on what's going to work for their skin. And there's Reddit channels that are insane.
That
That's
actually go.
actually a
Yeah.
really good secret use of how we do some diligence is getting down into the Reddit
Really?
channels.
We actually.
Because a lot of the reviews are baked on some of
Oh
these
yeah.
retailer channels. So going down into the Reddit holes,
They're
you
all
can
fake.
learn
Yeah.
a
They're all
lot.
fake. Yeah. All the reviews are fake everywhere. We actually, at Mad Rabbit, my last business, which was a beauty company, we considered advertising on Reddit, but I don't know if it ever really worked that well. So it's like more like the organic stuff, obviously.
And then we started getting bites from retail about like 3 years in, once we had like a real proof point, which
And it
back
was a
then was $1 million on Amazon. I feel like that's not a real proof point anymore, you know?
I mean, it's so like OG, right? Like that was like one of the key things that I had like that I wanted to talk about, which is like because you mentioned it, like you could sell like charging cords on Amazon and like make money,
Right.
and like that would be an insane thing to do today. Like one of the things I kind of wanted to get your perspective on, just like the evolution of Amazon as a channel, like over time, because I'm looking at like the dude wipes stuff on Amazon, and it's like I can buy a dude wipe pack today for like $4 on Amazon. Like, how is that even? I'm sure people buy more in bulk than that. But point being, just like, given that like your price point's like fairly low, Amazon fees are obviously brutal. Like, how did that serve you in the beginning versus like how it serves you now?
Yeah. I mean, you get to a level with Amazon where you're on more of a wholesale relationship.
Okay, so you
So
do vendor central with them.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that's how, you can treat it like any other, large retailer.
Yeah, yeah.
In the early days when you're on seller, you definitely have to sell like higher bundles, higher MSRPs to drive
Yeah,
some margin, but our category, yeah, it just stinks for unit
yeah.
economics. So that's why we don't even sell a ton on our website. Kind of like get it in bulk
Yeah,
over
yeah.
to the big distributors and let them sell.
What you would expect is, especially for like a retail dominant brand that's like lower price points, presumably lower margins. Like you basically just like have to dilute yourself to raise the money to like subsidize the business model until you have the volume where the margins actually make sense. I just want to understand, like, if you didn't raise any money, like how did that work? And like, were you trying to raise money and it would have been easier and you just couldn't? Or like walk me through a little bit about like the starting
Yeah.
up and like financing the business.
Yeah, couldn't raise money in the early days. And so just kind of was what it was, too early of a solution, no experience. So that ended up being a blessing because then we were like, okay, we kind of got a bootstrap. How do we make 250 grand this year on Amazon? Oh, next year we're making $1 million. So like we kind of stopped trying to raise money or talk to anybody and just bootstrap to our first $1 million. And that ends up kind of sequencing a lot of events that come after that. But just the fact that we weren't able to raise early on kind of just like set up the mindset for the rest of the time.
Okay, and so you never really did you ever decide? Well, obviously, you did a deal recently, but did you ever decide? I mean, over that 12-year journey or whatever, did it ever come back into your mind in terms of like we should try to raise some money?
Yeah. So obviously we do the Shark Tank deal, 10 years ago, which is technically our like seed investment or raising money. Probably those are the 3 big levers. And we just kind of, the way we map out the category, feel like we're still early in on it. And that's why it made sense to play the game longer. Essentially, that's one of the values private equity firm brings in. Like, hey, we're having fun. We want to keep doing this. Let's bring in a partner to the next level and go grow some more. But yeah, the growth thesis is just more distribution, more category growth. Like, I'm not so focused on market share because when you're in a growing category, like I don't think our market share is going anywhere, but it's, all boats are going to be lifting.
Okay, so like you go from Cabbage and now you're with Chase. Was there anything like in the middle there?
Yeah, like Wintrust locally in Chicago.
Okay.
Like start with the more local banks. They'll give you a little bit better treatment, better rates.
Yeah.
Then you can stay with them too, but we kind of got to a scale where, the tech, the size of the business, it makes sense to move over to one of the big boys. But obviously like the local banks would still offer you like the same financial terms. They just like weren't as good on the tech side. And we're pretty like lean, automated first sort of company. So it's like, we got to go with the tools that can get it done that way.
What do you mean like the tech side? Just like the portals and shit?
Yeah, like integrating into ERPs and automating reconciliation and just like different bells and whistles that like a real banking system, JP Morgan's the best, right? All that money they put into tech, they're able to just offer you things that, other people can't.
Yeah, it's like
I won't pretend to know all of them.
Yeah. It is like funny. Like so we bank with JP Morgan, and like every time I like try to log into like my bank account, it like gives me an aneurysm, and I text my banker and I'm like, I cannot believe, like, it's funny how they're like the most like tech forward bank, and I'm just like, I hate I hate trying to get into my bank account because you guys suck, but they're also, it's also the best.
I can't remember what number we were targeting.
Yeah.
But are we getting a good number of guys
Can you
over
give me the number you were targeting? Dave remembers.
We were targeting 1 and 3. We were targeting 33, and right out the gate we had like 60. So 33%. We were targeting 33%. Right out the gate we had like 60%. I think it was like 58 or 59. It was like just cresting 60%.
And
so it was almost double what we'd hoped.
And at
that was good.
At that level, we were contribution margin break even on that second purchase. So it became like the question was, how much money can we put into the machine and at what speed and through what channels to like kind of keep those sexy metrics?
Yeah.
I think what people may not appreciate around that time is that we didn't know it, but we were in the middle, we were at the beginning of the transition from what, like DTC 1.0, Harry's and Dollar Club, to like DTC 2.0. So we're building this business in 2018. We're talking to everybody about what should we expect for our customer acquisition costs, right? And like, we didn't know it, but during 2018, like that whole thing was changing, and not for the better, right? So we're launching in 2019. We're talking to our growth marketing people who'd promised us, or not promised us, but like advised that your CAC is going to be about X, Y, or Z. And we're like double that as well. So great. Our AOV was good. Our conversion rates were great, but our CAC was like way, way, way higher than we had modeled too. So that was tricky, and we didn't really know what was going on. DTC 1.0 was so much. I think people like romanticize DTC 1.0 a little bit because CAC was so low, but they forget actually how much harder it was to do e-commerce then. Like like Magento, literally, like it was pre-Shopify basically. Didn't have all the tools out of the box, right? So yeah, of course there was less competition online for the advertising dollars and the advertising eyes because e-commerce was just hard to do.
Yeah, you needed
So
like an
it's sort of a
engineering team to have a website.
You needed an engineering team to have a website, right? So like we're figuring this out in 2018. So like, oh great, look, oh my God, all these, all these tools available out of the box, great, right? But everyone else was thinking the same thing, right? And so that was sort of the central problem. And again, fortunately, we had great conversion rates and great AOV, so that papered over all of that.
The whole plan was, I can take this money, I can triple the business, I can raise an equity round, pay off the debt,
venture debt,
and keep going. We're all good. Well, that didn't happen because we all know DTC went so out of favor that and there was just collapse of DTC business. It was just like a graveyard. So I couldn't raise. So we're profitable. I'm paying down 150, 160, 100, something like that of this debt every single month from cash flow out of the business.
Oh wow.
It was like 110, 130, but it was
so
tough.
Like we were like this. The business was like a rocket ship, right?
Yeah.
We're getting profitable, the thing's cranking, and then I'm like, uh-oh, there's no more money coming.
Yeah.
So instead of taking all that money that we were reinvesting back into the growth of the business, like I had to start paying down that debt.
If we had raised more money, we would have definitely had more problems. I mean, not only with the pref stack on the way out and a whole bunch of other issues, I think we also would have just spent too much money. I mean, I think like we were sort of like I said, part of like DTC 2.0, which has ended now, was raising too much money and spending too much money. Right. I think that we had to keep our team super, super lean because we were always pumping whatever capital we had back into either inventory or, of course, growth marketing, right? So we were launching new products. There were, our main line with 20 SKUs just to support it required that we be in stock in all 20 SKUs all the time, right? So our inventory requirements were like super real as well and different than I think many brands too. So, controlling inventory is super key. To managing cash, obviously controlling your staff spend is super key. I mean, I still think that Nick and I both agree that there were certainly times when we made a couple big ticket hires that we didn't really need to make. Like very few of the sort of big ticket hires we made actually worked out great for us, to be honest. And we had like an amazing team. We had, just like our retention was insane. But a couple of the big ticket hires we made didn't really pay for themselves in the way that we thought they would in terms of instant growth. I think that's also something to sort of consider. Nick will have something to say on this too, but I think when you're considering those big hires and really trying to sort of think about what kind of impact they're going to make to the business. I mean, I think at one point we hired a $200,000 a year retention specialist, hoping that our retention would basically double overnight. And lo and behold, it actually didn't double overnight. I mean, we probably shouldn't have thought that it would make such a big difference, but I don't know. I think it's very easy to sort of, if you have too much money, just spend too much money. So there's something to be said for not having that much. And I think it did force us into constant, not just financial, but operational and marketing discipline as well. Right. Because we were kind of riding a vehicle with the shocks weren't that great on it, right? Every bump in the road we kind of felt, right? So if we had a shipping issue or we stocked out of something or, some big marketing initiative didn't work out in the way that we hoped. And we had a couple of those where it's we got some false positive signals and we spent a bunch of money into it and then they didn't work out. And oh shit, we spent the money.
The first couple $400,000 in the friends and family sort of pre-seed round, then Bling comes in for $1 million post-launch.
Yeah. Bling and Charge Ventures, they were actually in the friends and family. We did not have a traditional fundraising track. Technically, we only raised a seed. There was notes out the yin yang. It was constant. I was fundraising the entire business. We never had a ton of money at one time.
Yeah.
Which sucked.
If you could go back, how would you change that approach, if at all?
It's not. Here's the thing that was really tricky. I got, institutional round term sheets that were poor. Maybe not in valuation, but the structure and this and that. And
Yeah.
I was like, why would I take this? Like, is this a joke? And so, some of that just came from like my experience of raising money before. And I was
Yeah.
just kind of like, I'm doing this on our terms. And if that means I have to cobble together checks here and there to get what I want, then so be it, and I guess that was just like stubbornness or being fortunate, but it also, we're going to get to the fact of exiting the business. Like I,
That's probably why it worked out well for you
yeah,
guys.
yeah, because I had control of the business. I had the trust of my investors to do what was best in everybody's interest. And had I taken some of the other deals that were presented to me,
Yeah.
this wouldn't have gone this way.